Hey there, guys. Welcome to another episode of Schiz and Giggles. My name is Kody. I live with schizophrenia.
And my name's Kit, and I live with schizoaffective disorder.
And today we're going to talk about the things we miss since our symptoms started or since our diagnosis. So, a little bit of a backstory to why we're doing this topic. When you get diagnosed with a severe mental illness like schizophrenia, your life changes. And that's obvious, right? What I didn't realize until years after I was diagnosed was that there were things that I would never be able to get back. So there are things that I was able to start doing again with medication and treatment. I was able to start working again. I was able to start driving again. And that's all great. But as me and Kit discussed before when we were planning this episode, there were some things that we didn't get back, and we're going to give some examples of that. But Kit, could you go a little bit into why we decided to do this and why you think it's an important conversation to have?
It's important because we need to acknowledge the things we miss because there's grief involved.
Yeah.
And there is true, genuine, soul gut-wrenching grief involved when it comes to a severe mental illness diagnosis like schizophrenia. And it's just, we need to acknowledge it. Mm-hmm. And it's okay to feel that grief if you're in that situation where there are things you miss about your life before it. And I think it's just important to say it, just to come out and say that. So that's why I think this conversation is important.
Yeah, and I've mentioned this in previous episodes. One of the things I find really beneficial is to kind of mourn your old life, right? I've talked about this as like a form of getting over this diagnosis and learning to live with it, is recognizing that, we don't get to live the lives we necessarily thought we were going to live. And even me and you, we're fairly lucky. We get to live in the realm of what we wanted to do. You still get to be in the science field. I in a way, get to still be a teacher, but it's not at all what we planned. And this is not who we thought we were going to be. And so mourning that, like you said, is really important. And I think it can lead to a really profound healing that a lot of people with schizophrenia might not be able to get to if they don't properly deal with what they've lost and what they aren't going to get back.
It's hard to accept this kind of thing. It was hard for me to accept it. But acceptance is really the first step when it comes to healing from a mental health diagnosis and the life you had before all of it. And denial doesn't get you far when it comes to mental health. And so you need to work with it, not against it. And so kind of accepting and acknowledging and not resisting the fact that you had an old life and you can't have it anymore, not resisting accepting that is like a really important thing for people with these mental health diagnoses to do.
Yeah, and we're talking about, this is big picture, right? We're talking about literally mourning your old life, but I think some of the examples we're going to use today are small things, because a lot of what I wrote down for this, it's like little things that I never would have thought of. It's just the things that I wrote down for examples were things that, like, even years into my diagnosis, I didn't realize that I ever appreciated that so much, or that I missed it now. So I want you to start. Can you give me the first thing on your list? What's something you miss from before you were diagnosed or before you started having symptoms?
I think the biggest thing for me is that I no longer trust good moods.
Yeah.
Because I have a history of hypomania and one manic episode, I am so paranoid when it comes to having a good mood. Like these days, if I have a good mood, I worry. I'm like, am I swinging back up? Like sometimes if those good days are a little bit too good, I start to worry. And it comes to a point where when I have a genuine good mood, I don't necessarily recognize it. I think it's something else. And so I don't think it's real in some ways. Like I think it's like an artificial good mood because hypomania is an artificial heightened energy state. But I haven't been able to trust a good mood in years and years and years, because I went through so many years of repeated hypomanic and depressive episodes that it was just like, it was so clouded by the disorder that I just don't trust good moods. And I do remember a time where things were simpler and better, and I didn't automatically think, oh, am I swinging up into hypomania if I have a really good day? But these days, it's like I almost want to, and I have a problem with like suppressing my emotions anyway. Like I have really intense emotions, and so the bad ones I shove down, but I also shove down the good ones because they're also intense. And so that complicates things as well with everything. But yeah, the big thing is, I don't trust a good mood anymore. So like if I'm happy, I'm like, am I really happy or is it hypomania? And yeah, it's just that's how I live my life. So what was your first one?
The first one I wrote down, and this was kind of the biggest one for me too. I miss quiet. So what I mean by that is, we've talked about this. I don't always have symptoms anymore, but there was a time in my life where before I was diagnosed, before I was medicated, I had symptoms pretty much constantly. I was almost always hearing or seeing things that weren't there. Now with medication and treatment, I've gotten to a point where I can sometimes go weeks without any auditory or visual hallucinations. Now, when I say that I miss quiet, what I mean is I unfortunately still can't be in quiet places because even if I'm not having symptoms, if I'm in a space that's too quiet, it's like if my brain hears a little noise or something like that, I start to wonder, oh, am I having symptoms? And I can spiral very quickly into stress, into then having breakthrough symptoms. So I don't trust myself in quiet spaces. And the people who follow me know this. When I do live videos, when I'm, talking to people, I have to have a TV show on. Like I have watched the same shows so many times because I just need to have, I can't sleep without a TV show on. I can't go anywhere. Like I have to, I have a phone holder in my shower so that I can have a show on in there. And like, I just miss quiet. I miss being able to enjoy quiet. I remember as a teenager, I would just always take time to process thoughts while not listening to music, not being around noise, just literally having quiet spaces to deal with things and to deal with my emotions. And I can't do that anymore. So I miss quiet. That's my big thing. And that to me is always the thing I mention first because it's the thing I think about the most frequently. What is the second thing on your list?
So this one goes over the fact that like I had over a decade long diagnosis journey of things starting small and then getting worse over time. And so the next thing I had written down was only having to worry about hypomania and depression, not psychosis.
Yeah.
Because I did your voices for many, many years before I actually went on an antipsychotic to treat them, but they weren't harmful. They weren't damaging to me. So I didn't worry about them too much, but I also didn't know they were voices. That's the other big thing is I had no insight into my psychosis. But back then I only had to worry about the mood side of things. I didn't have to worry about religious delusions or really scary hallucinations that really scared me and made me really afraid and wrecked my life. And then I also didn't have to worry about mania. And so it was like a time when my symptoms weren't as bad. And even though I was still very mentally ill during those times before I got on the right meds and got the right diagnosis, my symptoms were still like less. Like there was a time where they did ramp up and get worse and needed more care, but there was a time for a while where they were less. And I do miss the days when I only had to worry about the hypomania and the depression and not the mania and the psychosis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's just like, that's tough because I've been mentally ill to some degree since I was like in elementary school. Like my earliest signs of elevated mood states started then. But yeah, it's just like it's been so long since my symptoms were just simple. Yeah. Now I have a bunch of things to frankly be afraid of, extremely afraid of actually. So yeah. So that's that thing. Whew, that was a doozy. This is like a little bit sad and a little bit dark in a way, actually.
Yeah, don't worry. I'm about to lighten it up.
Okay, well, you go ahead and say your next thing. Lighten it up. Go for it, yeah.
This wasn't actually listed as my next, but I'm going to say this next as a way to lighten the mood a little bit.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
The second thing I miss, and this is going to sound so weird, but let me explain. I miss showers. So I know you look confused. What I mean by this, where I was just talking about, like, I can't be in quiet spaces too long. That was like my number one thing. Like, I can't trust quiet. One of my favorite things was taking a nice long hot shower, right? Wow. Now, something about the white noise of the shower seems to cause me to think I'm having symptoms. So now, I have to have audio. I have to have some sort of either a TV show going or music, or like I can't enjoy a nice quiet shower. Which I know, like, if I just say showers, it sounds weird. I still take showers, guys. Let's start there. It's not that I don't take showers anymore. But I miss enjoying it, because that was like that was for me a great experience to be able to just like enjoy a nice hot. I like burning hot showers,
Oh,
which I'm one of those people. But like I don't enjoy the experience anymore because I'm worried that like if it gets too quiet, something about the white noise of the shower like seems to make me have more symptoms or makes me think I'm hearing things, which causes a lot of stress. So I miss showers, which is a weird it's a weird one to have on the list, but like I don't know if anyone else can identify with that, but that was always like that was my peaceful place, and it's kind of ruined now. So
I do sometimes hear music in the shower water, but that's not a that's like there's a name for that. It's not actually psychosis. It's like there's a name for like hearing.
there's a specific I've never
There's
heard
like
of that.
there's a name for like hearing like in like droning noises, hearing music or whatever. It's like totally
Oh,
it's a normal human thing, and I'm like, are people with psychotic disorders more prone to this?
probably, yeah.
Just like how, fun fact, side note, some people hear noises when they are on the border of sleep or waking.
Yeah.
And those are, if you have, my doctor told me that if you have schizoaffective disorder, you are twice as likely to have that happen. So I
Yep.
wonder if there's like a correlation between that weird shower water music thing versus someone who has a psychotic disorder.
I mean, it's similar to what I'm talking about, not necessarily with music, but that's why I can't handle white noise is because
Mhm.
when I have white noise, and like shower just kind of is white noise, you know?
Yeah.
It's not music, but I feel like I'm hearing things, which, you know, creates stress. And it makes me wonder if I am hallucinating. And if I get too stressed, then I do end up having breakthrough symptoms. So I miss showers. That's my second one. So,
Oh.
so what is your third list item there?
This is one that comes up a lot, but I'm gonna say it anyway. My memory.
That was actually going to be my number two. No joke.
Well,
Like
we can just talk about it.
we talk about this so much, but like you should talk about because I think this probably has a bigger effect on you where you're in science and like memory.
Yeah.
I feel like is a huge part of education and academy.
Oh, golly. So, like, many people know I used to have like a near photographic memory before psychosis and mania, depression kicked my butt. And I struggled in college as a result with it, and it was horrible. It was, I knew I used to be better and I couldn't anymore. And there was that slow decline and everything that you guys already know. But when I work in my job, it is like so frustrating to me knowing that full well memory loss kit could totally handle this paper, um this lecture, this PowerPoint,
Yep.
this talk, and like remember it and write it down and understand it, when in reality, if I have to do something for work, I'm really good at remembering how to do things. My kinetic or kinesthetic or whatever memory is still pretty good. Like I can memorize a protocol and nothing flat. So that memory is oddly enough preserved. And I have other levels of intelligence that are weirdly preserved. Like I can remember numbers really, really well. Like I really remember numbers extremely well the way I used to, but it's just I lost that, frankly, book smart nature, which is very weird because I work in science and like I'm doing well in science, but I don't have like the book smart knowledge to do things. I know we recently did a video where I talked about a paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that took me time and it took effort, and it was difficult at times to really try to comprehend stuff. I had to stop reading. I had to do it over multiple sessions, and that's how I do with all of my research is I have to space it out. So
Yeah.
I really miss mild memory because mild memory was like friggin' awesome and amazing, and I could walk by a book and know what was in it, kind of thing. Like I remember I don't know if I've told this story, but when I was in high school, we had AP classes, right? And my memory was still good. And so I had an AP Human Geography exam coming up. And so the way I studied was the night before the exam, I read the entire textbook.
Jeez.
Like I just read the whole textbook in one sitting in one go. I might have been a little bit on an upswing when
Yeah,
it came
a
to
little bit. Yeah.
but I got a top score on the exam. Like I passed it in flying colors, and it was just like I tried to do that later on, and of course it would have worked because my memory wasn't good enough. But that's how it used to be, and I miss it so much, and I've long accepted it. I've grieved it. Like it's okay. Like I'm fine with it now, but it's really frustrating because a lot of people in my life don't they know me after getting mentally ill. I don't really have a lot of people that know me before all of this. And so the people in my life now, they're like, "Oh, you're smart kid. You still have all this stuff. Your intelligence is fine." And I'm just like, "You guys didn't know me before all of this when I
Yeah.
was a little bit sharper." And could actually handle what life was throwing at me in a positive way. So yeah, that's my memory stuff. What's your memory stuff?
I won't drone on. I'm not going to do a full one on this one, but just to kind of piggyback off you, I didn't have like super great memory, but to even have like average memory and be able to just function data, because like a lot of your daily life is memory.
Yes,
Like
so much.
it's so debilitating to struggle not only with short-term but long-term memory. And I can't say too much about it. We've talked about this so much, but it's tough, and it was on my list. I had a feeling it was also on your list, but I'll pick a different one for my third. So my third one is going to be trusting interactions. And what I mean by that is, because I'm a person who has both auditory and visual hallucinations, to a very extreme extent, where I get in scenarios where I think I'm talking to people who aren't there. And even among people with schizophrenia, visual hallucinations aren't super common, not to the level that I have them. I talk to a lot of people with schizophrenia who do have visual hallucinations, but they're not like what I have. It's not full people. It's not like someone who's really in the room with them. So the problem with that is, when I have symptoms like that, there's a reason I had to start using my phone trick to reality check, was because once I got medicated, I started realizing that like I was talking to people who weren't there, because I started having more clarity, and I started having medication that helped me get out of psychosis and out of the delusions a little bit. But now it's like, even when I'm doing so well, like I go weeks without auditory or visual hallucinations, I can't ever fully trust an interaction with a person, because there's always a chance that the person I'm talking to is a visual hallucination. This is really, it's not just disruptive, it's scary, because I can't always whip out my phone and point it at someone's face and check to see if they're there, right? Like, not every scenario allows me to do that. And so it's just like, it's so frustrating to be interacting with someone and to have to like question, like, am I hallucinating, or is this person really here? So I just miss being able to trust interactions without questioning them, which is something I don't think I'll ever get back, because even though I have symptoms a lot less now, it's so consistent. I'll go months without hallucinations, and every time I talk to someone I might not know super well, or someone I've never met before, which I go to conferences all the time, I'm a speaker, so it's like I meet people I don't know literally every day, and I have to constantly question whether or not the people I'm talking to are actually there. And that's it's not just frustrating, it's scary at times to not be able to trust your own reality or your own experiences. So that's one of the harder ones for me.
Yeah, that sounds really, really tough.
Well, and we've talked about this, our symptoms are very different. I feel like you've said you've experienced visual hallucinations, but it's not common for you, right?
Yeah.
So like, I don't know if you can relate to that at all, where you might be able to relate to it more with auditory hallucinations. Like, I'm sure you've had situations where you're like hearing an auditory hallucination, not registering that it isn't a person there.
Oh, yeah, no, I sometimes, like, I have a whole thing where I wonder if the things I'm hearing just in general are real or not.
Yeah.
Like, someone
all the time. Yeah.
yeah, I was at a convention, and I told someone that, like, I was schizoaffective, and I explained it, and he was interested in it or whatever, and he asked me, he's like, "So if you hear voices and stuff, how do you know all of this crowd is
Yep.
all real?" And I told him flat out, I'm just like, "I don't."
Yeah, that's always my response.
Yeah.
They're like, how can you tell? I'm like, sometimes I can't. Like,
Yeah.
that's I think what I mean when I'm saying it's not that I don't still interact with people or whatever. It's trusting the interactions. Because same thing with auditory hallucinations. If I'm in a room of people talking, I could actually be hallucinating one or several of the voices and not even realize it. And that's not only frustrating, but like I said, kind of scary at times. So
Yeah, it
all
gets
right.
really scary.
Do you want to do one more each?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
I've got one more. This one is low key. It's depressing for me. I just got the whole bunch of depressing ones, honestly.
You know what? Besides the shower one, mine are also kind of like I think that's the nature of this conversation, though, right? We're not going to miss things that are like whatever. It's things that meant a lot to us. So
I miss not having to take a crap load of pills every single night.
Oh yeah.
I really miss just like one little pill is how it started. That was okay. But now I take a bunch, and I just added one more recently, and the number is getting too dang high, and I have to be on everything because that's how treatment works. And I'm just so frustrated with it because I'm just like, I swear, Kody, I literally swear, like, every single night I stare at my pile of pills and I go, God, I have to take these again. Are you serious? And then it's like multiple gulps of water and handfuls. And I'm just like, oh, like,
Yeah.
I'm glad, I'm grateful for my medication. It works. I'm
Absolutely, yeah.
super grateful for it. Like, I'm happy to take it. I don't struggle with taking my medication. I just struggle with the mental strain of realizing that once again, I, a 30-year-old woman, needs all these pills to function normally.
Yeah.
And it's very, I don't know, it's just, it if I had just bipolar or just schizophrenia, I know it would be less, but because I have symptoms of both, it's like more with it. And so I miss when first off, I miss when I didn't have to take any pills at all. But I mostly miss when I just had to take like one or two, maybe
Mhm.
three. So yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that one. That's one that and we've talked about this. I'm on an LAI now, and when I transitioned, I was taking four or five different daily antipsychotics. So I remember that very vividly being something that I'm like, it's hard when you have an illness that starts later in life because you're like, oh, that's right. There was a time in my life where I could function without all of this, you know, like I was able to just exist. And it's weird now thinking that there are people out there just doing that. Existing without medication is crazy to me.
Yeah, but I will say I'm really good at taking like 15 pills in one go.
Oh God, I
Like,
couldn't even imagine.
just a little handful, just go. "Ah."
Yeah,
So,
that's wild.
yeah.
My last thing is it's actually like just I think this is the most obvious one, right? But like when you are diagnosed with schizophrenia, most people, and obviously we've talked about this, there are rare cases of childhood schizophrenia. Most people develop symptoms in their late teens to early 20s. I started having my first symptoms at 18. So it's really weird to say, but I can like remember a point in my life up until 18 years old. I had never had hallucinations, delusions, paranoia. I had never had the negative or cognitive symptoms. So lastly, I just miss being a neurotypical person because before my diagnosis, if you anyone who knows me knows like I was a weird kid, but like I didn't struggle with mental health. I was a caregiver for my mom. I took on the role of an adult at a very young age, and I did it while going to school. And I was a pretty high functioning kid, and so to have a point in your life where you can remember not having symptoms, uh, it's like all I want. Like that's the biggest out of all this is just like I miss that time where I could live a life without I twofold, I guess, like without having to take medication to not have symptoms, but to not even know what these symptoms felt like. Because I watched a parent struggle with not just schizophrenia symptoms, but bipolar symptoms, and to know now what that is like, I wish I didn't. And I do think it helps me definitely relate to my mom and all that, but it's something where if I could get anything back, it would be having to know what this experience is like. Which also, this is kind of unrelated, but I need to say it while I'm talking about this. If we ever talk about like symptoms that are funny or happy or whatever, this is why it's so hurtful when people are like, oh, it sounds fun to have schizophrenia, or like, oh, I wish I could have schizophrenia for a day.
Yeah.
This is why it's so bothersome is most of us remember life before these symptoms, and even on our best days we would all tell you we would rather go back to not having them.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that was a big one too, but that I think is the one that I always think about. A few like honorable mentions. I miss having more energy. I miss being less fatigued. I miss being able to.
I miss being able to pay attention for long periods of time.
Oh my God, if only.
Yeah.
But yeah, stuff like that. It's stuff that might not sound big, but like to us, like we have to think about this all the time. It's stuff that we used to have that we don't have anymore. So yeah, those are all things that we miss, and I would love to hear what our audience misses. Like, what are things that you might miss? I've heard people say, so I actually have a friend of mine who's a schizophrenia advocate, and in the same way that I talked about missing showers because they were like a quiet space and I can't be in quiet spaces, they miss hiking and meditating for the same reason. So what are some things you guys miss before you were diagnosed or before you had any symptoms? I have a funny honorable mention.
Okay, okay.
And this is gonna sound weirder than the shower one, so hang
Okay.
on with me, all right? I miss being able to enjoy conspiracy theories. Hear me out. Hear me out. Um, I feel like before I was diagnosed with schizophrenia, I could like enjoy humoring and listening to conspiracy theories, but when you have delusions, you can't do that anymore, right? Because my brain will latch on to conspiracy theories as fact. Like that's what delusions are. So I miss being able to enjoy a good conspiracy theory.
Oh my god, low key, actually, like, one of the biggest reasons I can't touch religion is because of religious delusions.
Yeah,
So there's no world in which I could be religious because it
yeah,
is so dangerous for me.
yeah,
And even like religious like stuff that pops up, like especially like when people in my comments tell me that I need Jesus or whatever, like all
yeah,
that stuff is actually super harmful for me.
yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's those are all things that I don't think common people would think of. I don't think neurotypical people would even think of that, but yeah, those are some things we miss. Do you have any final words for the people, Kid, or any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Yes, actually. So we talked about how acceptance was really important when it comes to a mental health diagnosis and how denial does not get you anywhere when it comes to a mental illness. And I want to just reiterate that we are acknowledging that these things are what we miss. So we're acknowledging them, and it's really important to acknowledge them, but it's also important to accept them and know that acceptance does not necessarily mean approval, if that makes sense. Like, you don't have to approve something in order to accept it. But acceptance is the first big step when it comes to healing, when it comes to moving on, when it comes to being a better person, when it comes to all of these things. And so, yeah, definitely look into acceptance and work towards that if you're really struggling with the things that you miss in your own life.
Yeah, and there's a lot of ways to do that. Some people need to do it as a personal journey. It's also okay to look into therapy or counseling or things like that. Remember that medication is not a cure-all, and we got to do more work than that. And so for me, a lot of the things I listed off were things I didn't even realize I missed until I went to therapy. And so you don't have to take that journey of healing and acceptance on your own. If you need help, ask for help. But thank you guys again so much for listening, and thank you guys for all the support week after week. Kit, where can they find us?
All right, guys, if you have any topic ideas, guest suggestions, or anything else, drop us a comment, like the podcast, follow. We are Schiz and Giggles. That's Schitz like schizophrenia, and all spelled out, Giggles on Instagram and TikTok. And if you just want to reach us directly, you can go right to our email inbox by emailing schizandgiggles@gmail.com.
Awesome. Thank you guys again for listening. We always appreciate this time with you guys. Kit, what are some final words for the folks?
All right, guys, remember, the brain is a minefield, and we brought flip-flops.